Hello, I'm Aussie Villain, and welcome to a tutorial we're going to do here on reducing injuries. I've had a few requests to do this. Now, the injuries, it's all related here to the medical center. What you need to do, basically, is you need to trust what your staff is telling you. Now, I'm not saying this is the hands-down way to do it, but you can see here my Villa save that we were 28% decrease in injuries than would have been expected on average. So what I do personally, it does tend to work, but there may well be better ways out there. So if you have other ideas on how to reduce injuries, please leave them in the comments so we can all sort of help each other out and make sure that we are getting as little injuries as possible. Now the first thing I wanted to say is that there's some injuries that you just can't help. You can see here we've got a fractured toe. If it's an impact injury like that, a broken bone, it happens. There's not much you can do to avert those. What you can help is you can help the muscle injuries and those other sort of soft tissue injuries. So if you go into the medical center here, you can see that you have the sort of the risk assessment from your sports scientists. Now you really want to pay attention to this. You can see here we have a few players on high risk for match fatigue. And these are the ones that you can tend to help avoiding. Now, what I do for this, you can see here, we'll start with James Wilson. He has a high injury susceptibility as well. So anytime you have that plus a high match load, that's your sort of your red flag you got to look out for. So there's a few things that you can do when you get the players up here in the high injury risk. A couple of things you can do. First of all, is you can click on their name here. Go into development, into rest, and there we go. And you can rest them, whether it be for a day, 2 days, 3 days if you have maybe a week off, if you have sort of that 14-day break, if you have you've knocked out the cup or something and you don't have a game for a weekend, rest them for 3 days. That way that helps reduce that fatigue factor. And another thing you can do, if you find that you have basically your whole first team there with the high injury risk, another thing I like to do is if you go into training, go over to team, and then you can click on the X there, and it'll schedule a rest day. So that way the whole squad is off, and you don't have to worry about sort of individually going through and clicking on rest, clicking on rest, clicking on rest. If your whole squad's tired, just give the whole squad a day off, and that's going to help reduce the match fatigue as well. Obviously, how do you get over fatigue? You rest. That is, I find, the best way to do it. And by doing this, that's how I have got the decrease in injuries. And as you can see, I've had quite a few injuries in the team right now, which is not great, obviously, but we are in this game coming towards the end of the season. As you can see, we're in May. So the longer the season goes on, these things do tend to happen. I've had that percentage up as high as sort of 37, 38% at times. So by resting players, I find that's the most effective way to avoid injuries. So if you are getting a lot of injuries, as I said, just keep an eye on this medical center here, just underneath training. People that have the high injury risk, look to give them a rest where you can. And if it's somebody like James Wilson here that has a high susceptibility, then you really do want to be trying to rest them where possible. Obviously, towards the end of the season, if they get injured for a few weeks, it's the summer, it doesn't really matter, it doesn't affect you. But if it's early on, sort of especially coming into or over the Christmas period, if you're playing in the English leagues, very good idea to give them a rest where you can, just to help avoid those soft tissue muscle injuries. So that's it. Just a quick, short, sweet tutorial on how to avoid injuries. Hope it was helpful for you. If it was, please do give me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We have a few save games going and a few new ones starting up as well. And if you have any other suggestions for tutorials we could do in the future, by all means leave me a comment. I'll try and get those done for you as well. So that's it for today. I've been Aussie Villain. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.